rain hammered New Orleans like 1,000 whips cutting into bare skin. Wind hissed down the dark alleys, flinging trash cans aside, rattling manhole covers like angry drums. I, Walter Hayes, 67 years old, stood trembling inside my worn coat, my knees aching as if they might snap. I should have been at home by the fire, sipping a cup of mint tea that still carried the scent of my late wife. But fate had dragged me here, into a night no one wanted to stop in. Right in front of me, behind an abandoned supermarket, I saw a sight that froze the blood in my veins. A Doberman mother, later I would call her Vera, lay pressed against the slick concrete, her body so thin every rib rose with each ragged breath. The rain poured down on her soaked coat, yet she used every inch of herself to shield 3 tiny newborn lives. Rosie, the first, cried out in high, thin bursts, weak but stubborn, like a match struggling to stay lit in the storm. Scout, the second, pawed blindly for milk, his little legs thrashing as though he were fighting off a nightmare. And Tiny, the last one, was so small I had to hold my breath to see his chest rise and fall. But in that moment, he didn't. No sound, no movement, just a still, cold bundle in the stream of water. My heart clenched. I'd seen animals dead after storms, but never this close. Never with the line between life and death so thin you could touch it with a blink. Vera shifted, eyes blood red, teeth bared in a low growl. A mother ready to tear apart anyone who came near her babies. I stood still, letting the rain slap my face so she could see I wasn't an enemy. The smell of rust from the fence, the sour rot of garbage, the sheen of spilled gasoline, all of it thickened the air. Water ran down my collar, icy as 1,000 needles, but I didn't move. Every sense stretched tight as a wire, just to listen, to watch, to count each fragile breath. Then I saw it. A small detail that turned my blood to ice. The stream of water was slowly pulling Tiny toward the open storm drain. An inch more, and that little body would be gone. I lunged, instinct beating out the pain in my back. My knees cracked as they hit the ground, but I yanked off my coat and spread it wide like a tent, sheltering the mother and her pups from the rain's whiplash. Vera snarled, teeth clacking. I didn't pull back. I let her see my old hands open and empty. "You keep them alive, Vera." "I'll keep the storm away," I whispered, my voice trembling like a snapped string. A bolt of lightning ripped across the sky, lighting her eyes. In them I saw not just fury, but desperation, a plea she couldn't voice. She didn't trust me, but she no longer had the strength to fight the storm alone. Rosie cried louder. Scout wriggled harder, as if both felt the cold water rising. Tiny stayed silent, and that silence cut into me like a blade. I knelt there, my whole body shaking, my hands pressed into the black water. Rain whipped my face. Wind tore at my coat. But I didn't look away. I knew if I yielded now, those 3 small lives would vanish without ever touching sunlight. What could an old man do but set his back against the storm, wagering every heartbeat left? The gale roared, water swirled at my feet. Vera clutched her pups tighter, eyes never blinking. And I, in the darkness, whispered once more, "If death wants them, it has to go through me first." My name is Walter Hayes, 67 years old, a retired postal worker. I spent decades carrying mail through the rain and heat of New Orleans to raise a family. Now I live alone in a small wooden house on the edge of town. My wife, Mary, left 3 years ago. Since that day, the kitchen has stayed cold, and my morning tea has been nothing but a habit I keep out of muscle memory. They say when you're old, you should find joy in gardens, in books, and in newspapers. But on this rain-soaked night, My only joy is keeping 3 small lives from being swept away. Vera, the Doberman mother, doesn't know who I am. Yet the way she looks at me is the way Mary looked when she gave birth, fierce and fragile at once. Her body is wasted, her black and tan coat plastered to her ribs. Her ears droop, her teeth flash in a low growl, but her whole frame trembles with cold. She's just given birth. Blood and water have mixed and pooled red across the concrete. And even in that state, she's chosen to be a living shield for her 3 newborns. I bend down, taking each one in. Rosie, the firstborn, tiny, but her cry rings like a bell. I knew at once she was the one calling life back for the whole litter. Scout, the second, weaker, but his little legs pump as if he's trying to explore the world before his eyes even open. And Tiny, so small my palm could cover him whole. His chest flutters like a wet butterfly. Sometimes it stops, then stirs again. I know if he doesn't get warmth, he won't live to see daylight. The rain is heavier now. Water runs down my neck like cold blades. I drop to my knees, pulling my coat over them as a tent. My knees creak and snap, reminding me how old I am, but my heart pounds hard, like it's young again. A memory hits me. In 1973, Hurricane Carmen tore through Louisiana. I was 15 the first time I saw cats and dogs lying dead in floodwater. I swore I would never stand by again. But life carried me off, and that vow slipped into silence. Until tonight, when Vera's eyes locked on mine as if to say, "If you turn away, we will die." I dig through my pocket, just a few cold slices of sausage from my unfinished supper. I slide one closer. Vera doesn't eat. She nudges it toward Rosie. A small gesture, but it tightens my chest. Even starving, she saves it for her child. I look at the 3 little ones and think of Mary. The day we had our first son, she was exhausted, lips turning blue, yet she clutched the baby to her chest and whispered, "Keep him warm. Don't worry about me." That moment and this one blur together, as if God sent me to the right place, at the right time, to remember that a mother's instinct, human or animal, is sacred beyond measure. Another growl rumbles from Vera. She's still wary, eyes fixed on my hands. I keep my palms open, pale from the cold. I murmur, "You don't know me, Vera. But I swear I won't let the little one slip away from you tonight." A bolt of lightning splits the sky, lighting every drop of red on the wet cement. Rosie cries, Scout kicks, Tiny stays silent. Silent enough to steal my breath. I inhale deeply, catching the stench of garbage, gasoline, and rain. My throat is dry, but I force myself to stay still. What can an old man do but give the last of his warmth to the fading young? I clutch my coat tighter, press my back into a shelter, rain slapping my neck, water running like a river down my spine. The cold cuts straight to my heart, but I think if I'm shivering, they must be shivering 100 times more. A thought flashes. Maybe I won't make it home tonight. Maybe I'll collapse right here. But then I see the 3 newborns. See Vera trying to growl though she's spent, and I understand, if it takes all night, I'll stay. That night, in the storm, I was no longer just an old man alone. I became an unwilling night watchman for a mother and her 3 newborn children. The rain rose faster than I'd imagined. In just minutes, the puddle behind the supermarket had turned into a running stream, carrying scraps of trash along with it. I bent down, my heart clamping tight. Tiny, the smallest one, lay on his side, a body no bigger than a glove, the water pulling him closer to the mouth of the drain. I shot forward, my old knees cracking like dry wood, but I kept going.
My trembling hands tried to dam the flow, but the water was stronger than I'd thought. I grabbed a metal trash can and heaved it across the stream, bracing my whole body against it like a living wall. My neck veins burned. Sweat and rain stung my face as one. "No, you're not going anywhere, little one," I growled, as if I were talking to fate itself. Vera lunged toward me, thinking I meant to take her pup. Her teeth flashed white in the lightning, her snarl splitting the rain. I raised my hands, palms open, my voice shaking but firm. "I'm not taking them." I'm holding the water back. She froze for a heartbeat. Her blood-red eyes locked onto mine. Anger, fear, and something like pleading all tangled together. A fire truck siren wailed from the main road, high and sharp, tearing the night open. Vera flinched, ready to bolt on instinct and leave all three behind. My stomach dropped. If she ran now, the pups would surely die of cold. I slammed my palm into the water, pouring every scrap of strength left into a hoarse shout. "Don't leave them! Hate me later if you need to, but don't leave your babies!" The sound cracked, mixing with thunder, but I knew she heard. Her paws dug into the ground. Her whole body trembled, but she didn't run. Instead, Vera pressed herself low, curling around the three tiny lives like a living barricade. Rosie cried out. Scout thrashed. Tiny stayed terrifyingly still. I knelt close, pulled my coat farther over them, turning my back into a roof. Rain lashed my neck and hair, each drop a cold whip cutting straight to my heart. I remembered 1973, me as a boy, watching puppies wash away in floodwater. Back then, all I could do was cry. Now, more than half a lifetime later, I would not let it happen again. I lowered my voice, whispering through ragged breaths. "Vera, I swear I'll stay to the end. You hold your babies. I'll hold the storm." Her drooping ears twitched. She still growled, but the edge had softened. In the thunder and the stink of blood and mud, I felt a thin thread of trust being spun between us. And then, in that instant, Tiny gave a small twitch and went completely limp. No cry, no clear breath. My whole body went cold, as if I'd been pushed underwater. The storm howled outside, but all I could hear was my own voice murmuring over and over, "Don't go. Please don't go, little one." I sank down hard, my knees trembling. Rain sluiced from my back in cold sheets, sharp as little knives cutting into my skin. Vera still pressed the three pups to her chest, her eyes locked on me, glowing red in the lightning. Her low growl sounded like an old engine, a steady, warning rumble ready to explode at any moment. I opened both hands, the palms lined with scars from those years delivering mail in storms. I wanted her to see there were no weapons, no threat, just an old man holding his ground against the weather. "Vera, I'm not taking them. I'm only holding the rain back," I croaked, my voice raw and swallowed by the wind. She kept growling, but I saw hesitation. Her ears prick up, then drop. Her look was torn. Fight to protect her pups, or run from the danger closing in. I fished the last scrap of sausage from my pocket and nudged it forward. Vera snapped at it, like she was going to swallow it up to gain strength. She didn't. She took the bite and pushed it toward Rosie, the smallest, who was crying the loudest. I was stunned. Even starving, she thought first of that little one. A sob rose from my chest. An old memory came back. Mary at the birth of our son, lips blue, pushing the baby into my arms and whispering, "Keep him warm. Don't worry about me." The rain wanted to wash everything away, but right then I could see clearly. This wasn't just a stray dog. This was a mother, and I had to choose to stand with her in this fight. I moved, just an inch, one breath. Vera shuddered, teeth flashing white. I stopped, breathed deep to slow my heart.
Then another inch. Water tightened around our feet. Trash eddied in a circle near the drain. Tiny lay motionless, his small body pressed to his mother's belly, and I wasn't sure he was even breathing. Each second stretched like a whole lifetime. I stretched my coat out, making a makeshift tent so the wind wouldn't drive the rain straight on them. The cloth sagged heavily with water, pulling my back down. I gritted my teeth, dug my knees into the cold concrete. If death wants in, it'll have to go through me first, I murmured, repeating the oath under my breath. Vera watched me. Her eyes were wet now, no longer only anger, but exhaustion and fear, too. She still growled, but the sound had changed. The edge was gone, replaced by a trembling warning. Rosie screamed. Scout fussed, frantic. Tiny had been quiet for far too long. I wanted to spring forward, scoop him up and warm him with my breath, but I knew a wrong move and Vera would see me as an attacker. So I lowered my voice, almost a prayer. Don't think I'm a thief. Think of me as a porch. I'm not taking your babies. I just want to keep them here. Thunder cracked. Lightning tore the sky. In that flash, I saw Vera's lips tremble. Her teeth still showed, but she no longer clenched them tight. A narrow crack opened, fragile as it was, an opening of trust. I understood then that from this moment on, every breath, every inch I moved would decide the line between life and death for the 4 little lives sheltering under this battered coat. I knelt on the cold concrete, my hands shaking from rain and age. Tiny lay there, curled under his mother's belly, smaller than a fist, his wet fur plastered to his skin, his breath vanishing into the sound of the rain. I forced myself to breathe slowly. One wrong move and Vera would see me as an enemy. Her blood-red eyes pinned me, teeth still bared, but her whole body trembled as if it might collapse. I lowered my voice, whispering each word like a stone falling in my chest. Let me help. Not take him. Just help keep him here. A bolt of lightning split the sky, lighting the moment I slid my hand under my coat and touched Tiny's ice-cold body. The feeling stunned me, weightless, lifeless, like a scrap of wet cloth. Vera lunged, her teeth flashing inches from my hand. I froze, held my breath, waiting for the bite. But it didn't come. She stopped short, her eyes locked on mine, and lowered her head with a broken whimper, like a cry pressed down so deep it tore on the way out. My heart swayed. I understood. She was desperate, too. She knew this little one was slipping away, and it hurt her just as much as it hurt me. I lifted Tiny close to my chest, pressing him into the last warmth I had. My skin burned, my shirt was soaked, but I held him tight, as if I could pour my heartbeat into him. No response, no movement, no clear breath. I began rubbing his chest with the wet sleeve of my sweater. Small circles, slow and patient. Each circle is a prayer. Tiny, don't give up. Don't leave your mother alone. I let my wife slip away in silence once. I can't let you go, too. The words caught in my throat, burning. Mary's face flooded back. The last night in hospice, her hand growing cold in mine while I watched the monitor slow. Then all I could say was, "Please don't go." Now I said it again, for a tiny creature who hadn't even opened his eyes. The rain kept pouring, but all I heard was my own heart racing, and Vera's strangled growl. She lowered her nose to my hand, touched Tiny's body, then lifted her head and gave a hoarse, quivering cry as if calling life back. Tiny twitched, very faintly, like a leftover shadow of himself, then went still again. My chest felt crushed. I pressed my ear to his chest. Nothing. Only rain and wind are lashing. I felt empty, all my strength draining out. No, not like this,
I whispered, my voice breaking. I looked at Vera. She looked back, her eyes glistening in the rain. We understood each other without words. We were both standing on the edge of loss. Helplessness rose, tightening my ribs. I almost let myself sink down and let fate take him. But then, in the middle of despair, I felt it. A heartbeat. Faint, thin, but real under my fingers. I froze, tears mixing with rain. I held Tiny closer, rubbed harder, gasping like a drowning man trying to force breath into another's lungs. "Don't go, son. I'm begging you. Take every bit of warmth I have left. Stay with your mother. Stay with us."
Tiny jerked slightly. A tiny cough escaped, so soft it nearly dissolved into the rain. But to me, it rang like a bell of deliverance. Vera sensed it first. She surged forward, whimpering and trembling, then licked my hand, hot, frantic, urging life back. Tiny still wasn't breathing steadily. But in that moment I knew the fight wasn't over yet. I held Tiny closer against my chest. His body was ice cold, light as a wet leaf. But beneath my old fingers, I caught the faintest tremor. Uneven, uncertain, but real. "That's it. Hold on, son. Don't let go," I whispered, my breath rising pale in the storm. Vera pressed her nose to Tiny, a sob breaking out of her. The sound tore through me. Not a warning growl anymore, but the cry of a mother terrified of losing her child. She licked him hard, again and again, frantic strokes as if she could push life back into him. I rubbed small circles on his chest, once, twice, 3 times. Then, Tiny's leg twitched. A tiny choke slipped out, soft as leaves brushing together. I froze, afraid it was his last gasp. But then, suddenly, he coughed harder, spitting out a mouthful of rainwater. His little body shuddered, his chest rising and falling quicker. My cry broke loose, rough and ragged. "Yes! That's it. Breathe, little one." Vera nearly collapsed onto my hands, her eyes blurred with tears. She licked and licked as though pouring her soul back into her pup. I brought Tiny to his mother's chest. At first, he was too weak, his mouth slipping off. My heart dropped. I steadied his head, whispering, voice trembling. "Try. Just once. Choose to stay." Through the drumming rain, I heard it, the faintest suckle. So weak it sounded like a sigh of wind. Then again, and again, firmer each time. I broke down, hot tears spilling, mixing with the cold rain. I looked at Vera, and in that instant her eyes softened. The fury was gone, leaving only exhaustion and faith. She lowered her head and brushed her tongue across my hand, sealing an invisible pact. We were fighting together now. The rain still poured, but all I heard was that fragile sound of milk being drawn. To me, it roared like thunder across the sky, the thunder of life returning. Rosie, the strongest, kicked and cried louder, as if cheering. Scout burrowed deeper into his mother, searching for milk. And Tiny, still trembling, but his tiny mouth clamped down, pulling fiercely at the first drops of his life. My chest ached at the sight. In 67 years, I'd seen plenty of life and death, but never had I felt the raw edge between fragility and persistence so sharply. "Well done, son," I whispered, my old hand shaking as I rested it gently on his back. "You chose to stay." Lightning cracked, illuminating it all. Vera cradling her 3 under my coat, me hunched to shield them, the 4 small bodies pressed into a circle of warmth against the storm. In that moment, I knew it wasn't me saving them. It was they saving me, reminding me this old heart still had reason to beat. The rain softened to a drizzle on the rusty roof above. The air stayed cold, but inside that little circle of bodies it grew warm with each breath. Tiny whimpered faintly, unsteady, but clear enough to declare, "I will live." I drew in a long, burning breath and whispered to Vera, "You kept them. And me? I promise I'll keep you." She looked at me. No growl now, only weary eyes. But in them, I saw trust. And in that moment, I knew. We were no longer strangers. We had become allies. Two worn-out, battered fighters, refusing to let death steal 3 fragile lives. The night slowly pulled back. The rain no longer raged. It only whispered against the rusty tin roof. I sat there, my knees numb, my coat heavy with water, my back bent as if it might break. But I didn't dare take my eyes off the small circle before me, Vera and her 3 pups under the wet coat, all of them wrapped together, warming each other with fragile breath. Tiny, the youngest, still trembled. But his chest rose and fell steadily now, weak but steady. His tiny mouth kept drawing milk from his mother. I could hear the faint little sound he made. So small, but the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Rosie had drifted into a full belly sleep, her small stomach rising and falling. Scout lay pressed against his mother, tiny legs shifting. Both of them are still there, alive and stubborn. Vera dropped her head over the 3, eyes closed, her whole body trembling with exhaustion. Yet her ears still flicked each time I moved. Too tired to growl anymore, but not missing a single beat of vigilance. I whispered, "Sleep, Vera. I'm here. No one's taking them from you." She opened her eyes, looked at me for a moment, then gave a low sound, not a threat anymore, but an answer. In that instant, my heart softened, as if someone had laid a warm hand on it. Dawn began to break. The first light pierced the gray clouds, spilling across the wet concrete, making the raindrops on the pup's fur glint like crystal. A small miracle, right here in the filth behind a supermarket. My hand trembled as I reached out, not touching, just close enough to feel their warmth seep through the damp air. Tiny stirred. A faint squeak escaped his tiny throat. I gasped, tears breaking free, mixing with the leftover rain on my face. "Well done, son. You chose to stay." It felt like my whole body cracked open. 3 years of pain over losing Mary, nights of loneliness gnawing at me, suddenly poured out with the tears. I realized that sometimes God sends us these tiny lives not so we can save them, but so they can save us. Rosie yawned, her pink tongue blurring in the morning light. Scout kicked and burrowed deeper against his mother. And Tiny, still weak, but every breath was a victory. I knew he'd have to fight for many days yet, but at least he'd survived the longest night of his life. Vera lifted her head, eyes searching for me. No more anger, no more fear, only weariness, and something like trust. She lowered her head back over the pups, as if handing me a message. We did it. I bowed my head, my shoulders shaking, and wept. Not from weakness, but from gratitude. Gratitude that this small miracle had happened before my eyes. Gratitude that 3 tiny lives still breathed, still cried, still lived. Gratitude that in a moment where only death seemed possible, I'd seen how strong life could be. The light grew brighter. Somewhere nearby, shops were opening, sounds drifting from the street. But here, in this corner of an alley, time stood still. Just me, Vera, and 3 little ones. A portrait of endurance, instinct, and faith. I wiped my eyes and whispered hoarsely, "Thank you, Vera. You didn't give up. You taught me the lesson. Life is always worth fighting for." Tiny stirred again, a sound as thin as a thread escaping him, but I heard it clearly, ringing in my heart like a song. I smiled through the tears. That night, we'd faced the storm, and we'd won. If you've stayed with me to this moment, I am truly grateful. The story of Vera and her 3 pups wasn't just about one rainy night. It was a reminder that life, no matter how fragile, is worth bending down for, worth holding close with every bit of your heart. I cried, and maybe you did too. But these are not empty tears. They are the tears of compassion, of belief that miracles appear only when we refuse to give up. Thank you for listening, for staying with me through each breath of these 3 tiny lives. If this story touched you, leave me a sign, a comment, a subscription, or even just a nod behind your screen. That's how you and I keep the fire burning for the fragile lives out there. And I want to ask you, honestly, have you ever saved a tiny life? Maybe a puppy, a kitten, or someone trembling in front of you? If you have, please tell the story. I want to hear it. We, all of us with hearts, need to hear it.